Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today we have a webinar. This is undertaken by the Association of HR Professionals in colleges and universities all over the Philippines. We have from Cebu, we have from Mindanao, we have from the Bicol region and the Ilocos region. And I will discuss today the possibility of retrenchment and right-sizing as a result of the COVID crisis, but to do it within the framework of the law and also business ethics and social responsibility. So there must be good faith in abolishing redundant position. So pag sinabing good faith, it should not be personality-oriented. It should be job. Define the task. Define the new realities call for this job. No? The old system, overmanned, so many people, specialists. No. We should be more generalist now. If you are in talent acquisition, you can go to total rewards. If you are in learning and development, you can also go to organizational justice. You have to be able to, this is flexibility and the ability to glide from one function to another and be able to be a generalist, no? So that you can rise in the organization because you can do anything. Do not put yourself in a box that until you retire you are just a recruitment specialist. No. You must learn organizational justice. You have to expand your horizon so that the organization will look at you as a high potential with a lot of talents. You have to learn. You have to read, you have to research. That is the call for the new normal, no? And there must be, when you say old organization versus new organization, the new organization with lesser position but high-powered, so the difference, that is a redundant position. Redundant position. So, redundancy is always based on number of positions. But retrenchment is based on financial losses. That's why in retrenchment, the document required there is audited financial statement, audited not by the internal auditor, but by the external auditor, public accountant, that will certify that it is the true and correct accounting based on generally accepted principles of accountancy. Okay? So I don't have to go into the details of that because you can read that in your labor code. And then even closure, if you decide to close one unit, for instance, and combine it with another unit, you close the admin and the HR will absorb it, no? And it will now be called University Internal Affairs. Lahat ng internal affairs, pati administration. Tulad ni Dr. Sirad, hawak niya yung administration, hawak niya yung mga security, hawak niya yung mga maintenance, hawak din niya yung HR. So, in other words, Dr. Sirad is a very useful person in the university because he can handle everything. Ang scope ng kanyang responsibility is wider compared to yung HR ka lang talaga, no? Hindi mo alam yung ibang aspect ng administration. So, in the future, Dr. Sirad can be a university president because magaling siya sa academe, doktor siya, doctorate siya, magaling din siya sa HR. Ayun itong mga kailangan natin sa bansa natin. no? Pwede nga siya maging cabinet member. Oh, di ba? Oh, pinapasikat na kita, Dr. Sirada. Oh. So, ito, pupunta tayo sa disease. Oh, pag merong kayong mga empleyado na nagsasuffer ng COVID, huwag naman sana. At ang COVID, kahit ma-cure ka niyan, kahit nag-quarantine ka, there is a possibility na babalik yan. So, if his continued presence poses a danger to his life, and to the life of other employees, and even to the students, a public health physician can certify, and she can be let go. No, you let go of that person. No? Another is retirement, optional or compulsory. When you have served the organization for at least 5 years and you reach the age of 60, you can now retire. Option. Pero ang question dito, who has the option? The employer or the employee? The Supreme Court decided that question in the case of Philippine Veterans Bank versus Attorney Laya. A vice president for legal was retired before reaching the age of 65, which is compulsory. 62 years old lang siya, na-retire siya kasi papalitan siya. And then he contested the retirement. And the Supreme Court in bank, 15 justices, and the decision was written by former Chief Justice Lucas Bersamin, who is my neighbor here in Beef Homes. He said that the option belongs to the employee, not to the employer. So kung ang employer ang sabi sa kanya against his will, maging illegal dismissal yan. So kung illegal dismissal, tinanggal mo siya, pinorse to retire at 62, yung sahod niya from age 62 to 65 must be paid. That is the back wages, plus the retirement pay, or the separation pay, whichever is higher. So, natalo ang management dito. But, sa academic institution, there are protocols on retirement. And we have to follow that protocol. Kasi yung Philippine Veterans Bank, hindi naman academic institution yun. But, one principle there is this, and it will apply to academic institution. You cannot compel a person to retire before compulsory retirement age. So what will you do? You convince him. You give him an offer he cannot refuse. You add 1 more month. No, I want you to rest. You have served a lot. You have to enjoy life. No, you cannot be working forever. So, paano makatake over itong mga younger educators kung lagi na lang naiiwan sa yung mga older educators? Do you know why in our military at the age of 56, generals, 56 years old, you have to retire, compulsory? 56, ha? Oh. So, in the academy, you can formulate a retirement plan provided that it is agreed by the employees. Ito na nga yung sinasabi, you cannot have a retirement plan na i-impose mo lang because employer-employer relationship is bilateral. Oh. Mabuti kung ginawa mo yan before you hire him. During his time na regular na siya, tapos gagawa ka ng retirement plan, tapos babaan mo yung retirement age, you have to get his consent. Yan ang mahirap sa trabaho natin because if we cannot get his consent, he will file a case of illegal dismissal. Oh, problema na naman natin yan. So we have to follow the process. And the process is very simple. Number 1, written notice to the employee. and also to the Department of Labor, number 2. Pero alam nyo yan, madali lang sabihin yan, pero in the behavioral aspect of that is communication. Hindi yung ipatawag mo sa opisina tapos bigyan mo ng sulat. 30 days from now, wala ka na. No! Kailangan dito, they are not furnitures, they have feelings. Kailangan dito, meron kang magandang paliwanag. You have to talk heart to heart. Nako, University of Visayas, napakagaling dyan. Ang mga Goliases, talagang saludo ako dyan. Yung the way they respect the dignity of people. Hindi na ako makakita ng mga administrators na makatao na sobra, minsan inaabuso na rin eh. Pero okay lang yun kasi marami naman talaga magsasabi na iba talaga ang handling ng mga Goliases kumpara sa ibang mga universidad. So, pag sinabi nating legal, that is the official, but ang trabaho dito, behavioral, communication, one-on-one, heart to heart, you separate as friends. You do not separate as enemies. For all we know, we will meet again. You do not burn bridges. O ako, halimbawa, 12 years ako sa San Miguel hanggang ngayon, ini-invite ako. In fact, consultant pa rin ako sa ibang mga San Miguel company. Because relationship is very important. Huwag kang magmamaangas, mayabang ka kasi ikaw ay matalino, summa cum laude ka, graduate ka ng mga sikat na universidad. That is not very important. What is important is what is your impact on people? How does the people look at you? No? Number 3, bayaran mo ng separation pay na tama. Hindi yung dayain mo pa sa separation pay. O malinaw naman computation ng separation pay. Na pag redundancy, kailangan talaga dyan ay ay 1 month for every year of service. Pag retrenchment, 1/2 month for every year of service. Pero ang 1/2 month, hindi 15 days. Ang sabi ng Supreme Court sa kaso ng Capital Wireless versus Nieves Confessor, Secretary of Labor, 15 days plus 5 days service incentive list 20. Then 1/12 of the 13-month pay is equivalent to 2.5 days. So that is 22.5 days. When you say 1/2 month for every year of service, by the way, Dr. Sirad, there is a very good decision involving the University of Cebu. There is a faculty member who filed a case. That faculty member studied, while she was teaching at daytime, she studied law in the University of Cebu at night time. She became a lawyer. So she decided to retire. So the question in that case, I hope I have the facts of the case, but you just search sa Google nyo, where i-Google nyo yan, University of Cebu case. Mamaya, pwede ninyong erase yan because ang computation the only issue was the computation. Natalo ang management doon, nanalo yung faculty on how to compute separation pay. So that is a lesson. Kayong mga HR, magbasa kayo ng mga Supreme Court decisions na relevant yung mga tungkol sa academic institution. So due process means number 1, undertake financial analysis. If you are using retrenchment, look at the financial bottom line of the university. It is bleeding. Kung ako yung Board of Trustees, segmentize natin yung income sa elementary, income sa high school, income sa college, segment. Kasi maaaring kumikita yung college hindi kumikita elementary or the reverse. Tapos meron pa mga auxiliary income dyan, yung mga supplies, nagbebenta ng supplies at saka may dormitory pa. Minsan ang mga university kumikita sila sa dormitory at saka sa supplies. Kasi hindi sila kikita dyan sa tuition dahil under the law, 70% ng tuition fee increase, ibibigay mong increase sa faculty. So, paano kikita ngayon ng administration? So, maganda dyan, yung mga ginawa na merong dormitory, meron dyan na mga interna. Alam ko, yung mga anak na mayaman sa Negros, mga asindero, panapaaral nila dyan. Tapos diyan na lang sila titira sa universidad para hindi marisgo ang buhay nila. Mga babae pa naman sila. So kikita ang universidad dyan, pati yung mga kantin, pati yung mga school supplies. Imbes na kumita yung mga national bookstore, yung university ang kikita. Mayaman na yung university. Makatulong yan para mabalansin natin na lugi tayo dito sa academe, pero kikita tayo dyan. Huwag nang silipin ng BI area na pag-initan pa nila yung mga universidad sa kita na hirap ngayon ang financial sa mga academic institution. Buti na lang ang St. Paul kasi magaling talaga ang St. Paul. Sabihin ko sa inyo, ang St. Paul University, napakagaling mag-manage. Kung ako, Chef, i-evaluate mo lahat ng universidad. I'm not saying na kayo iba, hindi kayo well-managed. Pero pagka maggawa tayo ng criteria, mag-contest, ang galing mag-manage. Hindi lang ako magsabi hindi ko alam yung ibang universidad, pero ako na-impress talaga ako the way the sisters are running the St. Paul University. Okay? So, number 2, organizational analysis. Organizational analysis. So, sinong gagawa dito? Hindi naman kayang gawin ito ng mga abogado eh. Hindi ito kayang gawin ng mga finance people. Only the HR knows how to do it. Analyze the organization. The questions that will be asked is this position still relevant in the light of the realities now? So you question, you must have a questioning mind. And then you use the criteria ba na sino bang ulahin natin na paalisin? Anong criteria nyo? Kasi yung mga tamad, ang gamitin nila last in, first out. Bakit mo masabing tamad yan? Kasi madali lang gawin yung last in, first out eh. Tingnan mo lang yung date of hiring. Kung halimbawa may 1,000 kang empleyado, yung i-cut off mo, yung mga new hires, maliin na criteria yan. Bakit? Although legally that is allowed, but from the management point of view that is bad because you will let go the younger people who are more aggressive, dynamic, attuned with the new realities. Ang dapat nating gawing criteria from the management point of view is performance appraisal, tapos qualification standards. Bigyan mo ng malaking percentage yung may doctorate, may master's degree. Kasi academy ito eh. Tapos, performance appraisal for the last 3 years. Who are the highest performer? Huwag mong kahit maiksi pa ang kuwan niyan, length of service, pero ang ganda ng performance, no? Tapos attitude. Tapos absenteeism. Tapos ipasok mo na yung health issue. Lagyan mo ng percentage yan. Tapos gagawa ka ng committee chaired by HR, tapos Vice President for Academic Vice President, tapos another from Finance, tatlo sila. Sila yung mag-grade, sila yung Board of Judges, sino yung mawawala at sino yung mariretain. O di ganun, that is caring. Now, if somebody will question your decision before the Department of Labor, ako, abogado nyo, I will be able to prove that the management exercised extraordinary diligence. Management was not arbitrary in choosing people. Kasi dito na ngayon lalabas yung discrimination eh. Kasi papasok dyan yung merong inaanak, merong kamag-anak, merong mga pinapaboran, no? Hindi, pag may criteria ka, talagang i-apply ang criteria. Kahit wala pang pangalan yan, ha? Walang pangalan, criteria lang, qualification, tapos gagawa tayo ng decision. That can be defended in court because there is fairness in the criteria. And then, mag-town hall meeting ka. Sabihin mo na, this is our situation. We have many options. And so, after analysis, we have chosen this option. And some of you may be allowed to go. We are not abandoning you in a time of crisis. We are protecting you. And we are allowing you to rest because you have worked so hard in your life. You know, kailangan may communication plan eh. Tapos, aside from the town hall, individual mo siya. Individual talaga. Kausapin mo, HR kausapin. Na kailangan kasi HR ka, diplomatic ka, hindi pareho ng HR ka na pag magsalita ka parang militar na dictatorial ka, hindi ka pwede sa HR. Noong araw, ang mga military na mga retiree pwedeng gawing HR kasi gulatan pa noong araw eh. Ang style ng leadership style no autocratic, gulatan ngayon, hindi na pwede sa mga millennials yan. Today, kailangan ang ating mga HR ngayon ay mga diplomat. Diplomat. Magaling. Magaling talaga. Pag nasa HR ka, saludo talaga ako sa iyo, magaling ka. Kasi, iba ang tao eh. Iba ang tao, may feelings yan, emotion, marunong kang mag-calibrate. Talagang may gift of the Holy Spirit ka. The Holy Spirit is with you because you are HR. No? Then, kung may union kayo, wala tayong magagawa. You have to discuss with the union. Hindi pwedeng gumawa kayo ng decision na i-announce nyo, ibigay na lang ninyo yung notice na hindi pa nyo nakausap ang union. Ang mangyayari dyan, notice of strike. So, next is the package. Oh, ang ganda ng package. Hindi lang 22.5 days. Meron pang additional. San Miguel nga nung araw sabi, March pa ngayon but we will cover you with HMO until December. Wala ka na sa kumpanya, wala ka na sa payroll, pero we still care for you. Di ba? Kayo nang gumawa ng package na affordable na kaya natin at saka ma-feel ng tao na hindi siya binagsak na tinapon na parang you are being dropped like a hot potato. Tao yan eh. No? Napakinabangan ng organisasyon yan for so long, pagkatapos bigla mo na lang bitawan, tapos masama ang loob. Kaya nga nagpapile ng kaso. Kasi marami siyang nasa dibdib niya na nafe-feel na in times of difficulties, ginamit nila ako na napakinabangan din. Today, ako naman ang ibinagsak nila. Hindi ganoon. Hindi yan HR. Yung pag-serve ng notice must be ceremonial. Hindi yung basta hatiran mo nilang sulat, bukas wala ka ng trabaho or next month. Hindi. Kailangan dyan, merong sweet music mo na. Meron kang parang nanligaw ka eh, na may mga bulaklak pa. Meron kang talaga na iiyak ka pa, no? Sasabihin mo na hindi naman ito ang katapusan, no? Makikita pa rin tayo, no? We just really have to make this decision, nasaktan din kami, pero mahal ka ng organisasyon. Ibang feeling niya na paglabas niya sa kwarto na self-esteem niya is intact, na hindi mo ba sinira yung kanyang self-respect, yung kanyang dignidad, No, bihira lang kayo makarinig niyan, abogado. Ako lang abogado na gumawa ng gano'n. Pag abogado ng iba, sasabihin lang, legal yan. Wala na feelings. No. Human beings ito, handle natin. We are not dealing with vegetables or furnitures. We are dealing with human beings. Kaya pinili natin itong profesyon na ito. Magdusa tayo. But we should enjoy also. We are dealing with people, no? Kaya nga, hindi na personal people na Hindi na personnel. So, what is the care? Caring na ito due process muna bago yung care. No? Caring here is not just caring for the employees, but also caring for the stakeholders, the other stakeholders. Care for the employees, care for the owners, care for the support service provider, care for the students, care for the parents. We always balance, and HR is the advocate for balance. Na pagka sinabihan ka ng superior mo, huwag ka munang kumontra. I-analyze mo din, balikan mo siya. Sir, ito yung consequences ng mga decision. Are we willing to bite the bullet? Pag nagpailan tayo ng notice of strike, kung pinailan tayo ng kaso, these are all the consequences. So you have to prepare their minds. Kasi you are the professional. They are making decision. You complete the options. And then you analyze every option. Showing the care beyond the law. Recognize the assets among our people. So, yung ABC profile ko, kailangan yung mga A mo, dapat dipinsahan mo yan. Kasi yun ang the cream of the crop. They are the ones that will give life to the organization. They will improve the organization. They will add value to our decisions. So we have to care for them. Then, before we cut off the jobs, we have to avail of other labor-saving devices. Kasi ang requirement ng retrenchment to save, you will be asked by the arbiter, what other labor-saving devices have you undertaken other than eliminating jobs? No? Sabi, we even reduce the allowances of our executives. We even cancel all the foreign trips. We even suspend all the training programs, which is wrong. Do not sacrifice the training program because you need that. That is the vitamin of the organization. No? Then you start from the top before slashing the small guys. Kanina umaga, before coming here, may conference ako with a very special client. And bago sila magre-retrench sa baba, 4 na vice president ang tinanggal nila, kinumbine nila. You know, when I joined Pepsi Cola, yung trabaho ng 3 vice president, tinake over ko. Vice President for Legal, Vice President for HR, and Vice President for Corporate Affairs. 3. Nakasave yung kumpanya. Kasi hindi lang ako HR, abogado din ako, kaya ko yan. Corporate, kaya ko yan. So pag nakita ng mga workers na hindi lang naman tayo tinanggal, pati yung mga Vice President na wala ng trabaho, they will also minimize their heartaches na. We are not being singled out. We are not the sacrificial lamb only. Sacrificial lambs or whatever. Everybody has to share the burden and the sacrifices because we are facing a crisis. Yan ang sinabi ko, ABC profile. 10% of our people are the cream of the crop. These are the elite. Ito yung talagang mga high performer, mga dynamic people. They are self-propelled and self-motivated. They don't have to be told. They know what to do. And you don't have to supervise them. They can achieve amazing results even without observation. Huwag niyo pag mag-resign yan, bakit ka mag-resign? may offer doon sa kabilang kumpanya, you counter offer. Kung kaya pa natin, i-counter offer. Ako nga, dati sa San Miguel ako, I was offered by Asian Development Bank. I was offered by Philippine Airlines. So I told my boss, sir, double the salary ito, sir. How can I not refuse this? Don't worry. In a matter of few days, you will become an officer. Niwala naman ako kasi ang magaling yung boss ko eh. At talagang he made good his promise. Now, when you have become an officer of San Miguel, you have the benefit of traveling all over the world 1 month every year with your wife. All expenses paid. Pinasok ng KMU yung San Miguel. Ako lang ang abogadong humaharap sa strike line. Sa picket line, nandoon ako, nakikipag-usap sa mga striker. Mga KMU, sa sisigaw sila. Ibagsak ang pasismo, imperialismo, at misismo, at ikaw mismo. Ako lang humarap. Walang ibang abogado. Iba nagtago sila. Ako, haharap ako. So, ito, kailangan meron kayong ABC diamond. Ginawa ko ito. This is my creation. This is the critical few versus the trivial many. So, out of 100 people, 10 people are your jewels. They are your diamonds. You have to care for them. Yung mga C, ito na yung nasa pre-departure area. Maghintay na lang itong pag may retrenchment program, matatanggal itong mga C kasi wala nang initiative, laging late, laging absent, walang performance. Bakit pa nabubuhay pa sa mundo ito? Pabigat lang ito. Gumagamit lang ito ng kuryente sa opisina patapos nagtitiktok. Samantalang wala naman tong performance. Gumagawa pa ng mga issue. Bakit pa ito? Kaya, for the sake of the organization, we will let go of these people because they are also unhappy. Parang nabilanggo din sila sa paraisong parisukat. So, kailangan you allow to let them go, but you need a communication plan na hindi niya ma-feel na inapi naman siya. Kasi, magpapile ng kaso yan. Ito, this is also my creation, the matrix. Itong low-high, low competence but high character. Ito yung bagong hire. High character, mabait pa. Pero ang competence mababa, madali lang yan. I-train mo. Bigyan mo ng coach, mentor mo. Gagaling yan. Pag gumaling na yan, magiging high-high yan. Pero ang high-high people, pag hindi mo na-recognize, pag hindi na-promote yan, magre-resign yan. At papiratein yan ng ibang universidad. Because high potential yan eh. Kung ako may universidad, i-hire ko yan si Dr. Sirad. Gawin kong company president yan. Pero hindi ko naman gawin yan kasi UB, loyal ako eh. No? So hindi ko lang ang aking sabihin, high competence, high character. Yan ang kailangan natin tao. Kasi pag hindi mo yan ma-recognize, mapunta yan sa high-low. High competence, low character. Kasi disgruntled na yan eh. Bakit kayo may mga tao na mga intrigero sa inyong organisasyon? Kasi yan, they feel left out. They feel na na-discriminated. They feel na sila ay hindi recognize yung kanilang performance, na merong discrimination ang performance appraisal system natin. Kasi hindi naman kino-communicate ng HR na mabuti. Kaya na-disgruntled yan eh. Pananagutan din ng HR yan eh. At saka yung line manager niya. Hanggang magiging lolo yan. Ano yung lolo? Low competence, low character. Ayun na, yun ang sinasabi kong pre-departure area. Pre-departure area, naghihintay na lang yan na ofera ng early retirement plan, aalis na yan. Kasi unhappy din eh. normal kang tao, wala kang ginagawa, wala nang pumapansin sa iyo, hindi ka na binigyan ng load, hindi ka na binigyan ng utos, nandiyan ka na lang. So, if you are normal person, dapat maghanap ka na ng paraan na mawala ka sa universidad. Ganun yun. So, next is, ito malalim to eh. This is the matrix of productivity and satisfaction eh. Meron kasing high productivity pero low satisfaction. Mataas ang enrollment, magandang kita, pero ang mga tao mababa ang moral. Bakit kaya? No, there must be an issue. Pero meron namang kabila dyan, mababa ang productivity, naghirap na ang universidad, ang mga tao, tuwang-tuwa kasi mataas pa rin ang sahod nila, walang nawawala sa kanila. Unfair situation yan, yung number 9 at number 11. Lalo na yung number 12, pareho kayong galit ang administrasyon, galit din ang empleyado. Ba't pa kayo nagsama? Kung mag-asawa kayo, maghiwalay na kayo. Pareho kayong galit sa sarili niya, galit ka sa isa, siya rin galit sa iyo. Ang maganda niyan yung number 10. Mataas ang productivity, mataas ang moral ng tao, satisfied, happy, win-win solution yan. That will not come about without intervention by HR because that requires organizational change. That is OD, organizational development. Diba? So, ito, example lang ito ng care. The non-tenured before the tenured. The low performer before the high performer. The low character before the high character. The one who is less healthy before the more healthy. These are example of criteria. No? But ito ang sinasabi our retrenchment programs yun. Take care of the people like LGBT, yung mga PWD, senior, how do we take care of them? Huwag ninyo yung basta na lang paalisin na hindi nyo bigyan ng feeling na nagkikare ka sa kanila. The caring, the compassionate, the nurturing side na pwedeng maghihiwalay tayo pero magkaibigan pa rin tayo. Kita mo yan? Hindi yung maghiwalay kayo na magkakasuhan kayo tapos 20 years kayong may pinagsamahan tapos magkikita kayo sa hearing, hindi na kayo mag-uusap, nag-iisnaban na kayo. Sino ang nag-fail niyan? Both sides. It's not just one side. You have to examine yourself also. Women, lalo na mga babae, one of the most special kind of human capital are the women because the women are high achievers and the women also are very meticulous. They are more ambidextrous and they have to be given a special treatment. So, at this point in time, Dr. Sirad, kasi I have here 4 cases which I will discuss before we go into question and answer. Kasi how do you intend to make the question and answer? Will you ask them to write in the chat box and you read it, or they will ask the questions themselves?
Yes,
Huh?
actually, attorney, before we began, I told them, I gave them instruction that they will be sending their questions through the group chat, and one of our colleagues in SP attorney will be collating all the questions, and I'll be the one to ask all of them.
Very good. Mas maganda yung ganun kasi alam mo kasi may mga question na pare-pareho lang. And then pag question pare-pareho lang ay repetitious na. So I will get from inside the list of cases that I have prepared.
While Attorney is still out, I'd like to remind everyone to please send your questions through the chat box.
Yeah. So before you ask questions, very quickly, I will discuss this case. 4 cases only, very briefly. If the name of your organization is mentioned, that is without malice because this is a decision of the Supreme Court. And it is not libelous because there is no malice, there is no bad faith. The first case that I will discuss is about AMA Computer College versus Garcia, decided by the Supreme Court on April 14, 2008. This is about retrenchment. In this case of retrenchment, out of 54 workers, 54 employees of AMA Computer College, 2 filed a case. And the 2 won their case before the Supreme Court. What was the reason? The management or the administration failed to establish 2 things. Financial statement audited showing serious financial losses, and number 2, criteria. Why were these people chosen? There was no objective criteria. If there was one, the lawyer was not able to establish that by competent evidence. So, in other words, in the case of AMA, management lost. Okay, we will go to a college in Negros Occidental called Mount Carmel College. This is a college in Escalante, Negros Occidental. And there was an elementary and a high school department. The faculty and the non-teaching staff form a union among the elementary and the high school. The administration decided to close the high school and the elementary. Only the college remained. And it was very apparent that the college faculty did not form a union. So, in this case, the union filed a case of unfair labor practice because the closure would mean they will lose their employment and they are targeted because they are union members. And the Supreme Court ultimately decided in favor of the employees that there was illegal dismissal. But the case of unfair labor practice was not proven. In other words, tabla sila. Ang isang issue, panalo ang management kasi ang unfair labor practice pa naman ay this is a criminal offense. So, patawad sa ULP pero sa illegal dismissal, they have to reinstate. How can you reinstate so many people when you have already abolished the position? Because there is no more high school. There is no more college. So here, therefore, Dr. Sirad, instead of reinstatement, it's separation pay plus the back wages. So ang back wages dito, millions because this is 10 years. 10 years. The salary of the teacher for 10 years divided, multiplied by 13 because there is a 13-month pay. 13-month salary times 10 years. So 130 months. 130 months for every teacher salary. Sobrang laki nito. At saka exempted from taxes pa ito. So, pangalawang kaso, talo na naman ang management dito. No? Another case. Ako, ang dami kong kaso dito. Wala lang tayong time eh. Sana meron tayong time na ma-discuss ko lahat ng kaso because you can learn a lot of cases, lessons out of these cases. The third case is the case of La Consolacion College Manila versus Dr. Virginia Pascua. Ito yung doktora na part-time pero regular. Sabi, sir, pwede bang regular yung part-time? Yes. Do not confuse the number of hours from the regular status because it is the position that is regular. And the number of days may be full-time or part-time. So, ito si Dr. Virginia Pascua, MD, was the company physician of the La Consolacion College of Manila. Then, dalawa silang doktora. Yung isa hindi regular, siya regular. At saka may mga nurses. Sinisingle out siya kasi siya ang pinakamataas ang sahod. In fairness naman to the sisters wanted to save. Wala namang problema si Dr. Pascua, walang complain about her performance. Pero because nag-stick out siya because of her salary, siya yung natanggal. And you know what? The Supreme Court, through Justice Marvick Leonen, who happens to be the chairman for the bar examination next year, decided against the management. This is bago lang March 14, 2018. And the Supreme Court, through Justice Leonen, decided that it was an illegal dismissal. The last is the Claret School of Quezon City versus Madeline Sinday. This is about a clerk because Claret has a unit with sales books. Ito bang mga libro, may mga items, parang mga school supplies. Ang isang sales clerk is si Madeline Sinday. And her employment was terminated because of retrenchment. Again, the administration failed to establish financial losses and also criteria. So in all the 4 cases I discussed with you very briefly, management lost. And this is not good. And I think I am very sad because this is a slap in the face of the HR people. And therefore, I call upon you to ask questions. How do we avoid this situation? Now, at this point in time, Dr. Sirad, I will now stop the sharing so that you can see my face and I can see your face because your face sounds familiar. No? Okay, so we can now start with the question and answer portion. Okay?
Okay, Attorney. Yes, Attorney. Okay, so thank you very much. Before we get to the Q&A, we would like to give Attorney Joseph Jimenez a virtual round of applause. Okay, so anyway, Attorney, during the entire sharing, there were participants who shared their questions to our group, and one of our colleagues, two of them, Ms. Titi and Ms. Arlene, filtered the questions, and right now allow me to share with you the questions, Attorney, for your expert input. Number 1, Attorney, what is the compulsory age of retirement in the academy?
Well, the Manual of Regulations for private schools have 2 kinds of retirement. Retirement for the faculty and retirement for the non-teaching personnel. For the non-teaching personnel, the labor code will apply. Therefore, the retirement compulsory age of non-teaching is 65. For the academe, for the teaching, those institutions that are granted autonomy by the CHEP has the power to adopt retirement age below 65, provided that there is consultation. So what is used there is not consent but consultation. Just like when you have a consultation on tuition fee, there is a process of consultation. So that is enough. You can have a retirement age at 55 or 50 as long as you have consultation, that will be allowed. And the Department of Labor will respect the manual of regulation for private schools because this is these are not ordinary organizations. These are organizations with higher learning, with people who are really knowledge workers, no? Ganon ang answer ko. That is my very clear answer to your questions.
Attorney, in relation to that, attorney, can the autonomous universities include the modified age of retirement in the contract before they take on board?
Yes, that is better because the employee would be properly informed. He cannot complain later on because his signature to the contract is an evidence that he has given consent. Hindi pwede yung sabihin na, sir, when you appointed me, wala pa namang ganun eh. So you cannot amend our agreement unilaterally. No?
Thank you, attorney. Now, second question, attorney. Can an employee retire at the age of 60 at his option after serving 5 years or more in the company? And can the employer deny his optional retirement?
No, the employer cannot deny because that is a right that belongs to the employee. Provided that the two requirements are complied with, age as well as the number of years of service. So it is not allowed for the employer to deny. Because in our laws, even resignation, Dr. Siraj, you cannot disapprove a resignation because sabi nga nila, sir, nag-resign ako, dinisapprove man ng amo ko. Kung talagang gusto mong ituloy yan, he cannot prevent you from resigning because that will be tantamount to involuntary servitude. And in our constitution, involuntary servitude is prohibited. Kung ang isang tao ayaw na magtrabaho, mag-tender siya ng resignation, pagkatapos hindi siya nagbibigay ng 30-day notice, that is not a good reason to disapprove. You will just say that your resignation is approved, but it will take effect 30 days from now because management has to be given a chance to look for the replacement and for the proper turnover to the next who will take the position, as well as for him to clear himself of all the property and money accountability before the last salary is given. Because a person who resigns without a 30-day advance notice will be penalized. The last salary can be withheld by the employer. And this last salary cannot be used by the employer. It has to be submitted to the Dole Regional Office with a receipt. And the Dole will administer this because within a period of 3 years, that can be claimed by the employee. But if he cannot claim it, if he does not claim it, it can be used by Dole for their training and development budget.
Thank you, attorney.
Yes.
Question number 3 for you. During this pandemic, what can be used best if your reasons are both financial and organizational? Can we use the retrenchment formula?
Yes, because that would be lesser separation pay. So, if both the organization and financial, he can use the financial, provided that she has the financial statements that is duly audited by an external auditor. Because if she will use also the organizational, it is redundancy, it does not require financial statement, but it will entail a higher separation pay. Although the difference is only 7.5 days, no? Because 22.5 days versus 30 days. Oh, okay na ba yun?
Yes, sir. Now, attorney, what about the floating status? Are we allowed to include our faculty and staff, even the regular ones, on the floating status?
The word floating is not found in the labor code. What is called is temporary suspension of employment relationship. Layoff, ang proper term dyan is layoff. It is allowed but not to exceed 6 months. After 6 months, kung hindi pa makarecover yung organization, she has to be paid separation pay, retrenchment or redundancy. Kasi hindi pwedeng forever yung temporary, di ba? Parang mag-boyfriend kayo, mag-girlfriend, mag-call off muna kayo ng 6 months, then after 6 months mag-usap kayo kung kayo pa ba o hindi na kayo. Kasi there must be closure. Kasi unfair yan, Dr. Sirad. Kung layoff mo, hindi siya maka-apply sa ibang company kasi he is still connected with you, no? Although layoff lang, parang suspended lang ang inyong relationship. Ikaw naman, hindi ka rin makapag-fill up, hindi mo rin mapifill up yung position niya kasi officially nandiyan pa siya. So, you have to put a closure to your relationship. Yan ang sinabi ko na mag-usap kayo para may closure kasi walang forever. Para kailangan may closure para maka-move on kayo. Di ba? Oh.
Thank you, attorney. Parang boyfriend, girlfriend lang talaga.
Oh, kasi
You have to...
hindi pwede yung para bang alanganin. Ano ba itong relationship natin? No, halimbawa, hindi ka pa makapagligaw sa iba kasi hindi naman kayo naghiwalay. No? O, dapat klaruhin na ninyo.
Yes, thank you, attorney. Now, attorney, you are on a full-time status, but you are given part-time work with reduced salary. Can that be allowed?
Yes, because the principle is equal pay for equal work. In times of difficulty, mabuti nga hindi ka tinanggal eh. Yung bang full-time ka sana, nagiging part-time ka na. Kasi you cannot draw blood from stone. Mag-demand ka ba ng full-time na wala na estudyante? O, isipin mo lang yan. Paano ka magturo kung wala kang tuturuan? O.
Thank you, attorney. Now, next question, attorney. I understand that we still have to provide the mandatory benefits to our employees, even if we are under reduced work days and flexible working arrangements. But we are also obligated to still provide the voluntary and company-initiated benefits to our employees?
Very good question. At least tinanggap niya ang katotohanan na kahit na reduce work week ka, magre-remit ka pa rin sa SSS, sa PhilHealth, sa Pag-ibig. Pero meron siyang binigay na benefits na higher than the statutory. Ngayon, ito kasi ang pagkukulang ng HR. Magbibigay tayo ng benefits pero hindi natin nilagyan ng policy yung terms and conditions. Halimbawa, magbibigyan ka ng additional benefit. Gagawa ka ng policy on shuttle bus that this is available only if there is no lockdown or if we can afford it. Dapat may kondisyon. Pero pag binigay mo yan na walang kondisyon, hindi mo na pwedeng ma-withdraw. So, pag nag-volunteer ka over and above the statutory requirement, you have to put conditions. So, ang sagot doon sa tanong niya is look at the policy. Because when you give a benefit, you must accompany it with a policy. Yan nga ang trabaho ng HR, gawa kayo ng policy. Gumawa nga kayo ng policy how to make a policy. The policy on how to make a policy. No? And the policy should be approved by the Board of Trustees. Kasi pareho yan ang Kongreso eh. Sa university, ang Board of Trustees, yun ang Kongreso. Kasi sila yung policy making body. Ano, gagawa ka ng policy, HR ka, tapos hindi mo pina-approve sa board, baka ma-question ka pa dyan. No? Ba't ka gumawa ng policy? Ang pinapirma mo, presidente. Dapat ang presidente naman, i-submit niya sa board. Because whenever a policy creates an obligation, anything that creates an obligation or creates a new position, that's why HR cannot fill up a position that does not exist in the table of organization approved by the Board of Trustees. Kaya sasabihan ka ng boss mo, Mr. Sirad, mag-appoint ka nga ng communication manager, sabihin mo sa boss mo, sir, wala sa table of organization natin. Pwede bang gumawa muna tayo ng secretary certificate na pagawa natin sa board secretary na inapprove yan ng board kasi I, as an HR Vice President, cannot create a position by myself. It has to be approved by the board because it creates an obligation.
Next question, attorney. If some employees end up becoming part-time due to reduction of work days and later become full-time again after the pandemic, will their number of years with the school be interrupted?
There will be a proportionate recomputation of number of years. Proportionate. But the university can have a policy that is more liberal and allow it to be just the same as a full-time. So that's why you are autonomous because you can decide it for yourself. Are all your members autonomous? Hindi naman siguro lahat, no? Kasi it's very difficult to achieve a status of autonomous.
Thank you, attorney. Attorney, are institutions obliged to provide voluntary or company-initiated benefits to part-time employees?
No. Company-initiated benefit is a gift from the giver. Therefore, the receiver cannot demand. So, if it is given to the full-time, they cannot say, paano kami mga part-time? Iba kayong klase. There is a classification. Ang principle of discrimination will apply only if you are similarly situated. Pareho lang yan sa mga managsuon. Naiubang bright, naiubang dili bright. Nyamingon ng amahan. Yung mga bright, bigyan ko ng bagong cellphone. Yung mga mababang, mga baga grado, hindi ko bibigyan. Ngayon, magreklamo yung mababa grado, merong classification ang tao. That's not discrimination because that is according to merit and fitness. Not all will enter the kingdom of heaven.
There's a question here. During alternative work arrangement, like 15-day rotation in a month for 6 months, 15-day rotation in a month for 6 months. Can moonlighting be allowed even though the policy says otherwise? Or can the policy be waived just for the duration of the 6 months?
Yes, it can, but it must be put in an announcement signed by management. Kasi kung ako naman ang management, kung fair ka, kulang na nga ang income ng faculty mo kasi nag-part-time na lang siya, di ba? Kung nagturo ka sa UB, tapos part-time ka na lang sa UB, dati kang full-time, so nabawasan ang income mo. Ngayon, magturo ka doon sa ibang university, i-allow ka but only for the duration of the crisis, no? So, hindi naman natin ipairal yung dati natin. Binawasan na nga natin siya ng income, tapos stick to him pa natin ng conflict of interest. Talaga mag-conflict of interest yan kasi ibang universidad yan eh. Pero you allow freedom because that will also be the caring. Kasi itong ating webinar, meron tayong caring. Hindi yung basta na lang ang ipairal mo yung sa side mo. Tapos higpitan mo yung empleyado mo. Bakit? May karapatang mabuhay yan. May mga anak yun eh. So allow her some freedom but only limited during the time of the crisis.
Attorney, can that be legally automatic or it has to have clearance from your mother institution?
It should, your mother employer should state that. Kung halimbawa ikaw, in-announce ka, sabihin, ako Dr. Sirad, si Attorney Menes, nagtuturo ako sa UVic, dati full-time, ngayon part-time na lang ako. I will talk to you, Dr. Sirad, can you give me a letter or a memo allowing me to teach? Kasi, so, hindi na kailangan magaling pa sa presidente ng universidad, ikaw na lang HR magsabi, para naman pag kinasuhan ako ng conflict of interest, meron naman akong depensa na inaalaw ako kasi para naman mabuhay ako kasi binawasan mo na nga yung aking income tapos i-deprive mo pa ako ng means to achieve ay malinis naman na pagkuhan yan. At saka hindi naman masacrifice yung quality ng service ko dito. No? Kailangan mga condition. Ilagay mo yan provided that the quality of your teaching here will not be compromised, no?
Attorney, while the topic is about rightsizing, about retrenchment, redundancy, HR managers would highly welcome during the pandemic voluntary resignations. But will resignation be allowed verbally during the pandemic, attorney? Kasi what if daw the administration has already approved the verbal resignation, but then the employee would wish to retract it after the pandemic?
Alam mo yung verbal kasi is allowed but it's very difficult to prove. Kasi mabuti kung honest lahat, no? Limbawa ako, nag-resign ako, tapos in-approve mo. Tapos later on, bawiin ko. Ano ngayon ang ebidensya mo, Dr. Sirad, na nag-resign ako? Oh, di ba? Ikaw ngayon, because sa labor case kasi you have the burden of proof. Ikaw na ngayon makasuhan ng illegal dismissal, so do not allow any resignation not in writing. Eh sir, mahirap ngayon magpunta sa university kasi may lockdown. Eh, pwede namang email eh. Allowed naman ngayon ang email na resignation eh. Basta merong signature. No? Email resignation is allowed. Pwede nga ngayon mag-administrative investigation ka by webinar. Ang hearing nga ngayon, ang Supreme Court, ina-allow nila ang investigation by Zoom. Allowed na yan. Basta i-amend mo yung policy mo to accommodate the change. Marami talagang gagawin ng HR ngayon, pagbabago ng mga policy para ma-align tayo sa bagong protocols.
Attorney, generally speaking now, in the topic of rightsizing or downsizing, what is the main difference between doing it in a unionized institution and in a non-unionized institution?
Very good question. Thank you. You know, it's more difficult to undertake downsizing or rightsizing and in a unionized, especially if it will affect a union officer. Because the union will always allege unfair labor practice. They will always say that you are targeting us. Pareho nung nangyari doon sa Escalante, Mount Carmel, na ginamit nilang drama-drama na kaya ninyo sinara yan dahil nag-union kami. Meron ding kaso dito sa Metro Manila, yung Holy Child School, na ganun din, nagtayo ng union ng mga faculty, then nagkaroon ng mga right-sizing. So, my answer is the difference, it will take more effort, there is more documentation, you have to talk to the union, and the union may file a notice of strike. You have to face them all. While in a non-unionized, you cannot strike when there is no union. It should be very clear. It is illegal for any faculty or non-teaching or non-faculty to stage a strike when there is no registered union. The presence of a registered union is a condition sine qua non to the staging of a strike that is legal. It is always illegal to strike when there is no union. So,
Ayun, meron pong
times 5 ang difficulty pag may union. Kaya para sa akin, kung ako, may-ari ako ng organization, pag ang HR, dapat dublihin mo or triplehin mo ang sahod mo pag unionize. Kasi pag wala kang union, alam mo ba, Dr. Sherad, pag may union, mag-promote ka lang, kukwestiyonin na ng union discrimination. So every move that you have, you will always have to explain to the union and formally. Baka makarating pa sa NCMB.
You mentioned earlier about the alternative work arrangements, but then the employee would not allow or would resist on the alternative work arrangement. Can that behavior be used against the employee in terms of retrenchment or redundancy?
We should not mix just cause with authorized cause. Kasi just cause is insubordination yan eh. Insubordination when there is a decision by management. Legally speaking, that is a willful disobedience to a lawful order given by superior in relation to work. So ang gagamitin natin dyan is Article 297. Kasi ang right sizing at saka redundancy retrenchment nasa 298. Yung 297, Dr. Sirad, dati 282 yan. Yung 283, ngayon 298 na. So, yung tanong na yan, dapat, pag ang isang empleyado ay ayaw sumunod, maaari siyang matanggal, wala siyang matatanggap ngayong separation pay. Ngayon, ang tanong niya, pwede bang gamitin criteria yan? Yes, pwede niyang gamitin kung mamili siya ng i-retrench, kung mag-undertake siya ng retrenchment. Yung tao na yan ang unang matatanggal kasi mababa siya doon sa alignment, sa behavioral alignment. So, basta gumawa ka ng criteria na ang behavioral alignment is a major component in decision making. So, ang answer ko pa din yan is yes. Pero ang ibang employer niyan hindi nagagamit ng retrenchment, gagamit yan ng insubordination. No? I-subject yan sa due process. Pero naman, for compassionate, baka mamaya natakot talaga yan kasi alam mo na trauma na ang mga tao ngayon, Dr. Sirat, paglabas. Paglabas, alam mo ba, 3 months na akong hindi lumabas sa aming bahay. Kasi nga senior ako, pagkatapos, nasa batas ni Kim Cho yan na huwag kang lumabas talaga sa classroom Kasi, yan ang nangyari sa ABS-CBN na lumabas sila. So ngayon nahirapan sila kasi marami pala silang mga issue. So nahirapan sila ngayon. Sabihin nila, bakit yung iba hindi nyo pinahirapan? Kami lang. Kayo lang yung nahulian na may mga issue na hindi ninyo inaayos So panahon na ngayon nasisingilin kayo. So ganon din ang mangyayari dyan. Pag may mga, kung sinunod ninyo yung ABC profile ko, yung sa C yan yung tao na hindi sumusunod sa C yan. So talagang matatanggal yan kung magtanggal kayo ng tao along with the others. No? Yun lang.
attorney, one super last question.
Hindi, pwede pa tayong magtagal kasi hanggang alas 12 tayo eh, 11:37 pa eh. Oh, bakit niyo sabihin super last? You take advantage. Meron akong sasabihin, Dr. Siran, yung mga participants ninyo na hindi nakatanong, nahiya siguro, mag-subscribe kayo sa aking YouTube channel na Yusek JBJ. Libre kayo magtanong. Basta kayo ha, 44, 49 na kayo ngayon dyan. Pag nag-subscribe kayo, pumunta kayo sa YouTube. Tapos, i-type ninyo yung Yusek JBJ. Makita ninyo yan, may mga libre ako doong mga teaching. Yung mga pagtuturo ko sa UV every Monday na libre sa mga pagba-review, ginawa kong video yan, ina-upload ko sa YouTube. Yan ang serbisyo ko sa mga HR at saka sa ibang mga tao. So, mag-subscribe lang kayo doon. Libre na kayo sa mga tanong kasi nahiya kayo magtanong dito, no? Ako, available ako hanggang 12. Walang bayad dyan na sa inyo kasi nagbayad na kayo. O di, you take advantage of my presence, no?
Okay, attorney. Attorney, are we obligated to communicate our criteria for retrenchment to our employees?
Yes.
Yes. When are we supposed to tell them?
That is before the 30-day notice. In other words, before you issue the notice to a specific person na you are one of those retrenched, it should be clarified na these are the criteria. And then, when he asks question, you tell them, ito yung rating mo eh, kasi yung mga criteria mo may 20%, 20% performance appraisal for the last 3 years, 30% sa seniority, 20% seniority, 20% sa mga violation sa mga code of discipline. Then, you tell him, this is your rating. Pareho lang yan sa isang, ikaw, professor ka naman, Dr. Siran. Merong estudyante magtanong sa iyo, Sir, ba't ganito lang ang grado ko? Ako yung nag-top sa midterm, ako nag-top sa finals, ba't ito nakuha? Kaya tayo may class record. Alam mo ba, Dr. Siran, since 1977, nagturo ako dyan sa UV. Hindi ka pa isinilang. Estudyante ko si Vice Mayor Mike Rama. Hanggang ngayon, nandiyan pa yung class record. Pag tinanong mo ako, bakit ganito lang grado ko, sir? Oh, ito mga absences ko. Ito yung mga hindi ka nag-submit ng mga requirement. Wala kang term paper, mag-demand ka ng grado. Sino ang masunod? Yung salita mo o yung record ko? Yung record ko masunod kahit makarating pa tayo sa Board of Trustees. Manalo talaga ako. Mapahiya ka lang. No? So, it is very important that your documents are intact. Yan ang dapat i-discipline talaga sa HR. Documentation. Kaya bumili kayo ng libro ko, yung HR Form 101. Kasi nandoon lahat ng forms from hiring to retiring, nandoon yan sa central box, no? Nandoon lahat talaga, nandoon. Pag yung job offer, yung probationary period, anong criteria para maging regular ka, pati yung computation ng lahat ng benefits, computation ng overtime, computation ng night differential, lahat. Wala ka nang iisipin, HR Forms 101, 101 forms. Meron pang sample doong company policy, code of discipline. Merong policy on gender sensitivity, may policy on sexual harassment. Lahat nandoon. Nako. Walang ibang gumawa ng libro kundi ako lang. Kasi maraming abogado walang alam sa HR. Marami ding HR walang alam sa law. So, ako yung marriage between law and HR. Ako, si JBJ. I am the solution looking for the problem.
And we are giving witnesses to that.
Ay kasi, ikaw, batang-bata ka pa, mahilig ka na mag-aral kahit saan, ma-attend ka seminar. Yung iba kasing HR, ayaw mag-aral, tamad sila. Ayaw rin magbasa. O, ngayon, pag may problema, tatanungin, alam ba ninyo, merong nangyari na isang vice president for HR na tanggal? Anong reason? lahat ng mga ina-advise niya sa ibang line managers, mali. So lahat ng line managers nagpetisyon doon sa may-ari na tanggalin na yung VP for HR, babae pa naman. Alam mo, natanggal talaga, nag-file ng kaso doon sa Supreme Court, nakarating sa Supreme Court, sabi ng Supreme Court, bakit ka pa nag-HR, wala kang alam sa labor code. Ang lahat ng mga queries sa'yo, mali yung in-answer mo. Dahil mali yung answer mo, mali yung desisyon. At mali ang desisyon, nagsuffer ng damage yung organization. With more reason, therefore, I call upon you, all of you, 49 now members of this assembly. You have to study the labor code. Ako, ang dami kong libro. I made it simple for you, no? So, you invest in your own development, no? Wag na ninyong i-liquidate yan na pabayaran pa ninyo sa university kasi pag mag-resign kayo, hindi niyo pwedeng madala yan. Kailangan personal. Buti kung si Dr. Serad kayo, bibigyan ko ng libro. Lahat ng libro ko, bibigyan ko si Dr. Serad. Dahil taga-UP yan eh. Yung mga taga-St. Paul, bigyan ko rin yan kasi mayaman naman yung taga-St. Paul eh. Marami yung pera eh. Pero pag member ako ng Board of Trustees, pareho sa St. Paul, Surigao, binigyan ko lahat sila ni Sister Rosan, sila ni Sister Sally. Kasi makatulong yan sa decision making eh. No? That is my way of empowering the young HR. No?
Thank you, Attorney.
Commitment ko yan.
Attorney, my question po, Attorney. If the retrenched employee would file for a legal dismissal, what are the best evidences to give just in case in order to win? Unang-una,
mamili kayo ng abogado na expert sa labor law. Kasi maraming abogado, mga criminal lawyer, tapos kunin nyo. Kasi trabaho niya yun eh. Pag-isip, ano ba ang ebidensya? Ang ebidensya dyan, financial statement. At saka yung compliance mo sa mga notices. Did you follow the protocol? Did you compute correctly the separation pay? So, kasi minsan, doktor, nagpapile pa ng moral damages eh. Kasi napahiya siya. Yung faculty, nagsuffer siya ng mental anguish, serious anxiety, wounded feelings, sleepless nights. Mag-a-award pa ng moral damages yung Supreme Court. So, mag-ingat kayo dyan. At saka, meron pang attorney's fees na 10%. May interest pa 6% per annum compounded annually. So, ang pinakasusi dyan, you must have a lawyer who knows labor law. Kasi, ang kaso mo labor, kukuha ka ng criminal lawyer, pareho na ang sakit mo cardio, kumuha ka ng OB-GYN. O, pag kumuha ka ng OB-GYN, di maraspahan ka, samantalang ang sakit mo cardio, di mamatay ka pa. So, kailangan, hindi naman lahat talaga marunong sa labor law. At saka hindi lang enough that your lawyer knows the labor law. He must also know the judge or the arbiter. Kahit marunong pa yung lawyer mo, matatalo pa rin yan, hindi kilala ng arbiter. No? Ganon yan sa labor, kailangan kilala mo yung hearing officer para hindi ka sabihin, bakit ako natalo dito na kumpleto naman akong dokumento? So mag-appeal ka na naman. Maggastos na naman yung appeal kasi yung appeal mo, hindi yan tatanggapin kung wala kang appeal bond equal to the amount of the award. Kung nag-award yan ng arbiter ng 10 million, kukuha ka ngayon ng bond na 10 million, either cash or bonding company. At saka ang reinstatement is immediately executory. Pag natalo ka ng illegal dismissal sa arbiter, mag-appeal ka sa NLRC, habang ang appeal pending, either i-reinstate mo yung tao na yan na hindi mo na gusto, or i-reinstate mo sa payroll. Kahit matagal pa yung pagdidesisyon, siya may sahod, tuloy-tuloy ang sahod niya. Tapos kukuha siya ng trabaho sa ibang universidad, sumahod pa siya sa iyo, Samantalang nagtatrabaho siya, edi swerte pa siya sa pulis.
Attorney, for employees who are having their contracts ending, are we obligated to give still 30-day notice?
Kasi fixed term yan that is a fixed term. Ang batas talaga sa fixed term, you don't have to give notice kasi the contract itself is a notice, no? However, merong desisyon ang Supreme Court yan sa isang kaso na involving a university in Bicol or Southern Tagalog, somewhere in Quezon, na if you use the fixed term employment in order to circumvent the law on security of tenure para hindi talaga siya maka-acquire ng regular status, yung bang forever na lang siyang fixed term, that is also a violation of security of tenure kasi full-time naman siya. Bakit puro fixed term? Hindi niya na-achieve yung provisionary employment na under the manual of regulation na 3 years, 6 semesters, na meron siyang satisfactory na rating at saka may master's degree siya. Puro na lang fixed term. So, tingnan din ninyo, full-time siya, tapos lagi na lang siyang fixed term, hindi man niya nagawa na naging provisionary employee siya. Pwede ba yung isang universidad, puro fixed term, wala man lang tenured? Alam mo ba, ako lang ang kaisa-isang tenured professor sa UE since 1986. Bago lang ako nag-retire dahil sa aking compulsory age of retirement. But, rehire naman ako, retire and rehire. Pero hindi na ako dinidiyakan ng SSS kasi sobra ng edad ko.
Somebody was asking if you can share down your sites to them.
Yung site ko sa Facebook, madali lang naman hanapin yung Facebook, Josepos Berondo Jimenez, and then yung sa YouTube ay Yusek JBJ.
Okay, so again, thank you very much to our participants. You can subscribe with Attorney to Facebook and YouTube channel. So thank you very much, attorneys, at one time.
Salamat.
To our participants, Ashby and Ashby Working Team, thank you very much for learning with us today.
Thank you and magandang tanghali.